USA Radio News.
This letter, which comes 2 months after your plea, tells me that you have not yet owned what you did, that you still think that somehow you are right, that you are a doctor, that you're entitled, that you don't have to listen, and that you did treatment. I wouldn't send my dogs to you, sir.
Those are the words of Judge Rosemary Aquino. She is the judge in the Larry Nassar case. And before sentencing, the prosecutor had one final chance to address the court.
The level of Nassar's predation reaches even higher because he often knew the victim's parents, some of whom were fellow doctors, others who unwittingly sent patients to him. He even knew that some of the parents were police officers.
And moments ago, we just heard the judge hand down the sentence to Larry Nassar.
Sir, I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months.
This is USA Radio News. Investigators in western Kentucky are looking into why a 15-year-old boy opened fire in a high school, killing 2 students and injuring 18 others. Police have not yet identified the gunman or released any information about what motivated the attack at Marshall County High School in Benton, Kentucky. This high school student was at the school. He talks about what he saw at the scene.
I saw there was a lot of blood everywhere, and then people were getting shoved down. And so I just, I took off. I started running. I was scared for my life.
The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, strongly criticized Russia at a Security Council meeting on Syrian chemical weapons yesterday.
Russia is yet doing what it does best when it comes to chemical weapons. Russia is running from the facts. Russia has the audacity to lecture this Security Council about how to stop the use of chemical weapons.
Worth noting that earlier on Tuesday, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson also slammed the Russians for their involvement in chemical weapon attacks in Syria. This is USA Radio News. Despite the murder rate increasing in America, there was an overall decline in violent crime during the first half of last year. USA Radio Network's John Clemens reports.
The FBI released the report for the first 6 months of 2017, with over 13,000 law enforcement agencies submitting information. Overall, violent crime decreased 0.8% when compared to 2016. The number of murders and non-negligent manslaughters reported increased 1.5%. The number of rapes using a new definition decreased 2.4%. Robberies decreased 2.2%, while aggravated assaults declined 0.1%. I'm John Clemens.
Frightening video shows an out-of-control school bus sliding down an icy hill Tuesday morning just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Take a listen to one of the kids who was on the bus and what it was like to experience.
Start spinning, and we go backwards, and people are screaming. There's a lot of frantic, what's going to happen to us?
There were no injuries in the car that it luckily hit, or one person said there could have been a lot more damage.
It saved us from really rolling over and crashing, and people could have gotten really seriously injured.
There were 20 high school and middle school students on the bus, and the bus did continue to school after the crash. And finally, we're hearing in Hawaii that the reason the governor delayed in telling the public that the widespread missile alert was a false alarm was because he didn't know his Twitter password. For USA Radio News,
everyone, and welcome to another night of Everything Matters with Ed Munoz and David Zere, the voice of the common American. And here they are. Well, here he is. Here's David Zere.
Hi, good evening, America. This is Dave Zere. You're listening to Everything Matters. We are here live at JVK Studios in Lake Grove, New York. We're just outside of Manhattan. Remember, we lost 454 Long Islanders in 9/11, and please do not forget that. Thank you for joining us. We have a jam-packed news cycle. We have a special guest with us tonight. We have a partner at JVK Media, Corinne Murphy, and we have our producer, Eric Koppelman, keeping us live and on the move.
Always.
We are the voice of the common American. We are the voice of the military. We are the voice of the first responders. We have a jam-packed news cycle for you tonight. I just want to take a minute. Everybody watching us, we're on Facebook Live, we're on YouTube Live. We're going to be on Twitter Live very shortly, correct, Eric? We are on Periscope. You can watch us. You can go to www.wliny.com. You can watch our show live on Periscope there. You can download our show on iTunes, Podbean, Spreaker, and we're growing. There's a lot going on here. So I hope you can take the ride with us. The FBI tried to destroy Trump during the 2016 election, the 2017 election. There's proof of it now. It's irrefutable. The House Intelligence Committee is going to release this memo by the end of the month, which is going to be very damning to Barack Obama. And it looks like FISA warrants were obtained based on the Trump dossier, over 80% of which was false. That is much bigger than Watergate. It's probably going to be the biggest political news story of our time when you have multiple top FBI officials, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, James Comey, all of these people. They'll probably be at my house tonight at 2 in the morning, but it's okay, I paid my taxes. And these people, looks like they were part of a secret society. And those are the words used by Congress right now. Those are the words being used by Congress, that there's a secret society. There's 5 months of text missing, Eric, from Peter Strzok and his girlfriend, Lisa Page, right at about the time when Susan Rice and Samantha Powers, was deputy NSC chairman at the time, were unmasking hundreds and hundreds of people and putting their whole operations at risk. And it looks like they were spying on Trump and Trump.
They're not missing, David. They're in the same box with the emails.
Yeah, maybe they're part of that fire at the Clinton estate last week, which was another BS.
That's funny, right? Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
It's so funny. Bill Clinton, when he was, he's still playing his games, and he has this girlfriend they call the Energizer. So whenever Hillary lands at Westchester Airport or LaGuardia, the Secret Service hates Hillary so much, they say wheels down. And Bill Clinton has 45 minutes to get rid of the Energizer bunny. But she's nice to the Secret Service. I heard she bakes them chocolate chip cookies. So there is so much going on here. Turkey, right? No longer, they're breaking up NATO. Turkey fought to get into the NATO alliance for 50 years. We've got Incirlik Air Base there. We have F-16s flying out of there. They are bombing the Kurds who, Barzani and Talabani in northern Iraq and Mosul, which were our allies in the Iraq war. They're our allies with the Free Syrian Army. They helped us destroy ISIS in Raqqa, the Free Syrian Army. The Turks are bombing them and the PKK, and they're crossing the border into Syria with the help of the Russians, with the endorsement of the Russians. I mean, this could lead to the brink of a new Cold War with the United States because this helps Bashar Assad. So the Russians are claiming that they're pulling out of Syria now that they have their air base thanks to Obama, and now that they have the naval influence over there, thanks to Obama, and now they're going to get their hands on something like 10 billion cubic yards of natural gas in the Mediterranean. The problem is that we created a vacuum in Iraq in 2010. And after losing thousands and thousands of U.S. soldiers, I used to go to Walter Reed, to Ward 57 with these troops right off the battlefield. I walked in one guy's room. He had no limbs, and he's eating chicken off of his chest. And I'm down there handing out laptops like a jerk. Like, what is this guy going to do with a laptop? But his attitude was great, and he didn't want to leave the battlefield. And he just got off a Landstuhl, a C-117 Globemaster transport out of Landstuhl Army Hospital in Germany. And 4 days before, he was laying in a battlefield, blown to bits by an IED. And here's Obama takes power, and he doesn't enforce the Status of Forces Agreement, which should have left 50,000 U.S. troops behind. And we gave back Ramadi and Fallujah and Najaf and all these areas. In 2004, I don't know if you remember, the Marines were taking heavy hits there. And in 2006, in the battle for Ramadi, the U.S. Army and the Marines were getting crushed over there. And it wasn't until, George Bush, who has a lot of humility, George W. Bush, he unleashed the surge, and we put the V-22 Osprey into work, which is the vertical short takeoff or landing aircraft that doesn't need a runway to take off, and it can go 360 miles an hour and is able to get to the Al-Anbar province where we inserted thousands of U.S. troops, and we decimated the Al-Qaeda alliances over there because we made alliances with the tribal chiefs at the village level, and we were able to take back Iraq all the way to the Syrian border. And these V-22 Ospreys were able to get our troops at a hospital in the golden hour, which is why we deployed that, which took the place in some way. Our CH-47 Chinooks, we're doing. So anyway, I don't want to get off on all these tangents, but Obama's vacating, not keeping the status of forces agreement in effect, created a vacuum, and ISIS took a piece of land, a swath of land the size of Indiana, from Syria to Iran. And now there's a land bridge for Iran to bus troops. They actually have videos of like Greyhound buses going from Iran to Syria to help destroy U.S.-backed forces, So thank God we have Trump in office. Because all you heard for 8 years was, we can't do anything about ISIS. We can't do anything about it. We're fighting ISIS. This guy freaking wipes them out in a year. He wipes them out, and the first thing he does, he drops a Moab in Afghanistan and kills 100 fighters in the mountainside, buried in like ticks. And then he goes in and he launches 57 Tomahawk missiles into that airbase where the Syrians were launching chemical attacks against innocent people and killing babies in the street, backed by the Russians, backed by the Iranians. This is what Obama did. He created this vacuum. He allowed the Russians, who always armed the Syrians and the Turks in the past, and they were arming the Turks all the way back to the Greek War, the Civil War between Turkey and Greece in the 50s, and the domino effect, and Harry Truman, and the U.S. in the Cold War, and Vietnam, and Korea. And there was a reason why we pressed up against this. And there's a reason we wanted to stop Soviet imperialism. And now that the Soviet Union is gone, Russia's sitting in its place, and it's the same thing, and they're still our enemy. Thank God the Pentagon right now is switching gears. The Pentagon is switching gears, and they're going to be aimed a little bit more at nation building, in the respect that we're going to be fighting the Cold War a little bit harder against China and these other places. So anyway, I'm all fired up. I just want to thank everybody for listening here. Ed Munoz is not here tonight. He is on a security detail. We have so much stuff going on here. We were in the city. I was at a conservative dinner. I was at a book launch for James O'Keefe at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel last week, who wrote a book, American Pravda, which is about American media conspiring to take down Trump and their hostility and their lies, and fake news is real. Fake news is real. It's not coming from the right. Very little of it is coming from the right. It's coming from the left. I'm at this dinner the other night, Eric, right?
I saw the video.
750 conservatives showed up for Mike Cernovich. He's the one who broke a lot of stories.
What was the video of you out in the parking lot?
Oh, my God. So, it's the day of the Women's March, and I'm down at 637 West 50th Street over on the west side in Manhattan. And it was a great dinner. It was an amazing night. It was James O'Keefe. It was Mike Cernovich, who's a conservative talk radio show host out of Orange County, California. He's got 150,000 Twitter followers. It was all these great people from the Gateway Pundit. I was with Lucien from the Gateway Pundit. I was with Cassandra Fairbanks. I was with Holly McKay, the international war correspondent for Fox News. It was just an incredible night. And there were people from all over the country, and people say, it's a crypto-fascistic, right-wing Nazi event. We were like normal people. We were like old business owners and conservatives, just fed up with all the BS we see everywhere. And everybody was so nice. And then all of a sudden, Chelsea Manning shows up, who spent 7 years in prison for stealing secrets from the U.S. government and giving them to WikiLeaks. And, she was court-martialed, and now she's running for U.S. Senate in Maryland, and nobody can understand what she's doing there. So I was hanging out with her for like an hour or two. We were talking. She wasn't that friendly. She was actually pretty miserable. And we were like, what the hell's going on? If anyone doesn't know, Chelsea Manning is a transsexual. She had the surgery, I believe. So she's a man. She became a woman. She was court-martialed. She used to be Bradley Manning, and I have no problem with that, whatever, But nobody could figure out why she was there. And I was there with Gavin McInnes, the co-founder of Vice Media, who left in 2008 to join Fox News Corp. And he was so nice to her. We were so nice to her. Yeah, everybody was cordial and gracious and respectful. And it turns out she's just there to gather intelligence on what they call the alt-right, which is total BS name. There's no such thing as the alt-right. It's just garbage. We were all business owners. I'm a Ted Cruz guy. I didn't even back Trump in the beginning. But he's doing such a great job, and he's turning everybody and everything up on end. And I love it, So anyway, Chelsea Manning comes out the next day, and she says that, what did she call us? Hold on. The event was called the Night for Freedom, so there's 700 of us, right? She crashed a fascist white supremacist hate brigade party. You know? Like, how dare she? How dare she? I have 4 children. I own a business for 30 years. I've been getting my ass handed to me by government for 30 years, fighting over-regulation, paying $36,000 a year for a family health plan so everyone can stay in their parents' basement until they're 50, sucking off of Medicaid. You know? This country is so screwed. So she goes to BuzzFeed the next day and says that we're all a bunch of Nazis in the room. And so anyway, we're leaving the event, and there's like a couple of hundred Antifa and BLM people out there. I go out there. I had to be escorted by the police to my car, and as I'm walking to my car, which was parked right next door in an outdoor parking lot, I get confronted by this African-American woman who's telling me that I have syphilis, and I brought roaches to America, and she's telling me that I need to go back and that I didn't even know what soap was until the Moors conquered Europe back 1,000 years ago. I mean, who are these people? Calling me a pig, porky pig, effing pig, spitting at the police, cursing at the police. You mofos can do nothing against us. Like all this stuff. Like, who are these people? Who are these disgusting, disgusting, vile creatures that are destroying America? We are heading for civil war. I guarantee you that. This can't go on anymore. So it's the Women's March, you know. I don't know what they're marching about. My mother was a single woman, raised us by herself. She was Poopy the Clown. She was a wallpaper hanger. She did whatever it took since I'm 3 years old to make it. She had nobody to bitch to. She had nobody to go to. She didn't have $1 in her pocket for 30 years, and she made it on her own in business. By the time I was 15, she started to do a little better, you know. And now we have a successful real estate corporation. You know, we had nothing. We had nothing. I was on the free lunch program, you know? And all of a sudden, you know, you got these women marching. What rights doesn't a woman have that a man has? I'm asking you, everybody. What rights does the Illinois prison population has 50,000 people, and only 5,000 of them are women. If it was so unfair against women, wouldn't there be more women in jail? Don't women commit crime too? You know? So listen, I'm pro-woman. But what are you marching about? What are you marching about? They were so disgusting in the city. They had 6-year-old kids carrying signs like F you effing F. They had vile signs like little kids with vagina hats on. What am I missing? Isn't that child abuse? If I did that and I went to the Smith Haven Mall here in Suffolk County, New York, I would be thrown in jail. I would be thrown in jail. I'd be thrown in jail probably for wearing a Trump hat at the mall. You know, so this is like crazy. I know I'm all over the place. We're waiting for Ed to call in because he did security at the Women's March. And it was just unbelievable. There's a lot going on here. We want to do, every week we're going to do a police update, a police one update. You know, there was a suspect identified a couple of days ago in a fatal Pennsylvania shooting of a U.S. Marshal. Kevin Sturgis of Philadelphia shot at law enforcement who arrived at his house to arrest a woman. It's a very tough job, you know, very tough job. And last week we exposed, you know, we heard a story about in South Carolina.
Hey, Dave, I want to give a shout out to Legislator Robert Trotter watching.
Hi,
Thank
Robert.
You.
We love Robert here in Suffolk
We do.
County.
Absolutely 100% great individual, great legislator, one of the best here in Suffolk.
And he's the standard bearer for the rest of the country because Long Island is 100 miles long and 15 miles wide, and we have 117 municipalities and hamlets, and different zoning boards, and different town councils, and different town governments, county governments, 1,000 separate taxing districts, Eric, in an island 100 miles by 20 miles wide. 1,000 separate taxing districts, garbage, ambulance, fire, library. We are so overtaxed. Suffolk and Nassau County have an economy that is like the 27th largest economy in the world. We're bigger than most countries economically. We give 25% of our tax dollars to Albany. We get 13% back in funding. So we're funding a lot of people who don't deserve us. So anyway, thank you, Robert, for listening, because our story here in Suffolk County is a lot of people's story, and the gravitas of government growing by leaps and bounds around the country. And you know what? It's a tightrope to walk. We want to support our police. We want our firemen to make money. City cops don't have a contract for two years. Listen, these cops in the city at our events, you know, they're getting abused, and de Blasio doesn't have their back. I can't believe that you could go up in the face of a cop and tell him there's nothing you can effing do to me, you effing F and you pig, and they can't, like, beat me over the head with a billy club. Unbelievable. Listen, we have a hard break. You're listening to Everything Matters with Ed Munoz and David Zere. We're here live at JVK Studios in Lake Grove, New York. We have a lot more news. I'm going to get a little more organized over here. Hopefully Ed Munoz will call in. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be right back.
Since 1980, Zere Real Estate Services, a trustworthy full-service commercial real estate company, they have been servicing real estate requirements throughout the Long Island commercial real estate region for more than 3 decades. Office leasing, industrial, commercial real estate. You know, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to commercial real estate, Zere, come on, Long Island, you see the signs, they're all over the place. Zere Real Estate Services. Give them a call, 631-467-4300, 631-467-4300. Check them out online at www.zere.com. One more time, telephone number 631-467-4300. Industrial buildings, properties, distribution facilities, factories, farmland, flex space, manufacturing facilities, truck terminal, whatever you need, commercial real estate, it's Zere, ZERE.com, 631-467-4300, 631-467-4300. Well, maybe it's finding a better way to manage your business so you can pursue your passion or have the resources to spend time with those closest to you, and Bridgehampton National Bank can make that happen. They're a Long Island community bank, and they offer smart solutions, sound advice, and personal service to help businesses and individuals succeed, and they welcome the opportunity to do the same for you. Check them out online at www.bnb.com. That's www.bnb.com. And now, back. And we're going back now. We're going back to the voice of the common American. Everything matters. And here's David Zere.
Hi, everybody. We're broadcasting you live from JVK Studios, just out of New York City. We're broadcasting around the world, actually, right, Eric? We're no holds barred. We are
absolutely.
Internet radio.
I mean, we've actually, like I tell the story all the time about, when we've been on Periscope at one point, we had Vladimir Putin listening to us. And his friends call him Vladdy now. We're close to him. But, yeah, we've actually gotten emails from people all over the world. Not only across the country. I know we got Tammy out there in California. We got Sean in California.
Tammy Escalante, hi.
We got Jen in Virginia. We got
Johnson.
Jay in Dover, Delaware. And, here on Long Island, like you say, you got legislator Robert Trotta and everybody else here on Long Island paying attention to what you have to see.
We got Lee Taylor and Patrick Mary in London. They're cops. They know what the real story is, that 180 courts recognize Sharia law in England. They're being taken over.
You got England, right? You said we got England, people. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
We have people in Austria. We have our friend Heidi Moons in Germany.
So when are we doing? We should do a round-the-world tour of Everything Matters. I'd be willing to. I'll go with you. Yeah.
I hope you have a lot of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah. We will after we do that, So
I don't know if everybody can see on camera here. I have a million stories. And I spend, I work for a living. Outside of this, I'm a builder and a developer. I deal with government regulation all day long. Most of the governments on Long Island are pretty friendly. It's not a statement against them as individuals working for government. Most people work hard, but they got to be able to take a look in the mirror and at the gravitas and the size of government and why we pay $25,000 a year on new construction when we build a house. And then we got to pay an additional 5 cents for a grocery bag, which is driving everybody crazy because everybody's walking around Macy's and all these stores with piles of clothes in their hand like they're stealing them, and the security guys don't even know who to stop anymore. There's just a receipt on top. You could just stick a paper. I could stick my driver's license on to walk out with 45 jackets from Calvin Klein. I'm thinking, I need some suits. So anyway, this FBI story, there's 50,000 missing texts. True Pundit, which is a website, it purports to have contacts with the U.S. government, claims that a high-level FBI agent called on the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to launch an investigation into the FBI and Justice Department, specifically concentrating on these threatening 50,000 messages. They're gone. They have disappeared, along with Hillary's servers, which they use BleachBit on, and our 13 phones that they crushed with hammers. Could you imagine if a Republican did that? Could you imagine if Bush was caught in the White House smashing phones with hammers? Just like the day Vince Foster died, when Hillary went into Vince Foster's office and carted out all the files and the Whitewater files, which weren't found until they were found on the White House dining room table a day after the statute of limitations ran out on Whitewater investigation. These people are slugs. The Clintons brought small-town Arkansas politics to big boy Washington, as George Will always said, But this is crazy. I mean, we're talking FBI conspiracy at the top. And I know there's, 30,000 people in the FBI. I have people close to me who work for the FBI. I love them very much. And I'm not accusing any of them of doing anything wrong against this country. But there is no doubt that at the top of the FBI, there were many officials last year working against Trump. And we have proof now. When this memo comes out at the end of the month from the House Intelligence Committee, it's going to be unbelievable. By the way, Trump banned Haitian immigrants after his supposed slur against Haiti, which is not really the way he said it. But the U.S. banned Haitian, Belize, and Samoan citizens. Actually, I think, Samoa, from a list of more than 80 countries whose residents are eligible for H-2A and H-2B visas. But he didn't he didn't take away their ability to come here because he doesn't like them. It's because 39% of Haitians overstayed their visas. 39% of Haitians overstayed their visas in 2016. They have no respect for U.S. law, right? Samoa wouldn't accept people that we deported back to Samoa, so they're on the list. And Belize is a similar situation because of human trafficking. They're trafficking young girls for prostitution. They're trafficking illegals. So there's a reason. Everything Trump does, there's a reason, it seems. And every time he opens his mouth and everybody says how dumb he is, he winds up to be right in the end. Like the president of Uganda, who said he loves Trump's frankness. He said he loves Trump and the ability to be frank with the American people because Uganda, it's not clean. They don't have any infrastructure. People get hacked up in the jungle. It's unbelievable. They've had terrible leaders. They've had dictators and fascists and Marxists and communists and Islamic terror, from all these groups in Africa. ISIS is in Africa. All these other groups that kidnapped these 200 girls and killed a lot of them, So Trump seems to be right every time he opens his mouth, not stupid. And I'm tired of people saying it because they're really just always wrong. Trump had these fake news awards, which I thought was hilarious. Paul Krugman claimed the markets would never recover from a Trump presidency. That was #1 in the fake news awards. The Dow's up 35% since he took office. I remember I used to sell financial services, and the S&P 500 was 1,500 just a few years ago. It's like at 2,600 today. All the people that bought my investments made like 60% on their money or something like that. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on. Brian Ross bungled a report about Mike Flynn, if you remember that. The CNN falsely reported that the Trump campaign had early access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks. Time reported that Trump removed the bust of Martin Luther King from the Oval Office. So not true. It was Obama who took the Winston Churchill bust out of the Oval Office and sent it back to England because he hates England. Like he wrote in his book, and this is a fact, and if anybody doesn't believe me, go online, go read Dreams from My Father that Obama wrote, and he says the white man's greed rules the black man's need. He hates the colonialists. He hated white people in America. It's just a fact. He said it time and time again. It's very upsetting. Anyway, CNN, this is #7 on this awards list. They retracted a report claiming Anthony Scaramucci had Russian ties. CNN's video suggested Trump overfed the fish in Japan with the Prime Minister Abe in Japan. The Washington Post Dave Weigel tweeted that Trump's December rally in Pensacola, Florida wasn't packed with supporters. And they did the same thing at the inauguration. I went to the inauguration and the place was packed to the hilt, all the way back to the Lincoln Memorial. And here is CNN showing a video and a picture that was taken 6 hours before the event started, saying nobody was there. I could go on and on. Newsweek reported that Polish First Lady Duda didn't shake Trump's hand, which is not true. CNN reported that FBI Director James Comey would dispute President Trump's claim when he was told he was not under investigation. The New York Times reported that Trump administration had hidden a climate change study, which was not true. Russian collusion, it's the biggest hoax perpetrated on the American people. That's all I got to say about that. Let's see what else we got. Sarah Carter, who's she's an international war correspondent and a great, journalist. She's saying the House Intel's panel passage of New York Republican Peter King's motion. So Peter King is a congressman from Long Island, very big on national security issues. He's definitely an ally in most cases.
I don't mean to interrupt. You got a couple of questions, people questioning you on the chat room?
Yeah, what do you got? I'm sorry, I'm enthralled.
I know,
here.
that's why I wanted to interrupt you just for
Shoot, what do you got?
Rob wants to know what your opinion is of unions.
Wow.
Hey, you're a celebrity now, Dave.
Hey, listen, I'm in
people.
business. I don't think anyone should tell anyone else what to do. There's federal laws protecting everybody on the books right now. I have my own business for 30 years. I've been in private business for 30 years. I've never seen anybody treated unfairly, and if they were, they quit and they got another job and take a federal lawsuit out. On the other hand, I don't have a problem with most private unions. I do have a problem with politicians accepting money from municipal unions, and I know that's going to strike a lot of people. And you know, say, you know, oh, you're against public officials, you're against, you know, public workers and civil servants. It's not. It's not. I'm against cross endorsements, and I don't think anyone, you know, candidate should get both parties endorsing them. It's like when I was in Moscow in 1986 with like military trucks in the street. There's one candidate. So I think that should be outlawed. I think there should be either a very small cap, or municipal unions should not be allowed to donate to public candidates. Other than that, I support them. You know, listen, when you joined the civil service, you know, you used to do it, you didn't make a ton of money, but you got great benefits and you had a strong pension and you rely on that. But let me tell you, everyone out there, I'm in business for 30 years. I don't have a pension. I got a rinky-dink life insurance policy. I don't have anything. You know, I got a couple of assets, whatever. You know, the amount of money that I would have to make on what a lot of public employees have by the time they retire, I don't think I'm ever going to get there. You know, and I can make $300,000 a year for the next 20 years, and I still wouldn't have what a lot of these people have. So I'm not knocking it, but I don't want everybody knocking the private sector. So there's a time and a place for unions, you know, and there was probably more of a time and a place for a lot of the unions 100 years ago when kids were in sweatshops and the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire and kids in coal mines and Pinkerton was, you know, killing employees, you know. So, but listen, I'm not against it. For myself, I treat everybody fairly, and I don't want anybody telling me, you know, how I'm supposed to treat somebody when I'm fair to everybody in business. I work for builders for 30 years. I build houses. I build commercial buildings. I'm a commercial broker. We do the solar farms here on Long Island. Everybody I know that works for these private builders who aren't union are getting treated pretty good, and they have good lives, and they own businesses. And they're under fire from the government with workers' comp audits and unemployment insurance rates and high insurance costs because everybody's bull and they're fraud for workers' comp claims, and we're paying for everybody who wants to sit at home and do nothing and sue everybody. So it's not that I'm anti-union. I just don't want to be told that I have to be a union. You know, if a company wants to unionize, that's fine, and that's their business. But remember, New York State has 800 public-private authorities, and none of them are allowed to be audited. So you can't tell me that there isn't a lot of fraud going on at the top in the MTA and these other groups. You can't tell me that it doesn't exist. I know for a fact it does. But the workers are great, you know. My friends are MTA workers. My friends are, and especially the cops. They got the hardest job in the world. New York City cops get treated like scum by de Blasio. You know, I don't, you know, I would love to be a cop. It's not the path I chose, but you know, listen, these guys put their life on the line. Every traffic stop. My favorite show is Live PD. Everybody they pull over is a piece of garbage. Like, I don't know how they keep their sanity. How does a cop keep their sanity going out there? You know, everybody's a dirtbag. Nobody has a license. Nobody's a citizen. And every time they get pulled over, like, I don't recognize the government. I don't recognize the government. You know, the guy's hopped up on meth. The guy's hopped up on whatever. And you know, so these guys got big problems. So I 100% support the police, the fire department, you know, and you know, we got a lot more problems to tackle before we get to those issues. You know, like all the people in Medicaid fraud in New York State, where there's $2 billion a year in Medicaid fraud in New York State. 40% of it's out of Brighton Beach alone over here in Brooklyn, you know. So you got another question?
They said that they're saying that you don't seem to be a very big Obama supporter. What is your opinion currently of our past president?
I'm an athletic supporter. Obama. I think Obama was a plant. I think Obama, at a very young age, was tapped for higher power, just like Bill Clinton was for his cooperation with Mena Air Base in Arkansas. You know, the rumors are that Bill Casey was head of the CIA, tapped Obama to get the DNC nod in the Democratic National Committee. back when Gary Hart dropped out of the race for having the affair with Donna Rice when he challenged the Miami Herald to follow him on the boat. Arkansas was 47th in education, 50th in job creation. How did he get on the national scene at 40 years old? Unless somebody higher up tapped him. I think the same thing happened with Obama. You know, he's a Harvard graduate. Why did he go to Pakistan in 1980? U.S. citizens either weren't allowed or discouraged from going there. Why would he go to Pakistan in 1980? Was he doing reconnaissance for the CIA or the government? I am not a conspiracist, but these are the facts, folks. You can check them out. They're real. So, you know, Obama, he was a ghost professor at Northwestern University. He never showed up for work. He spent 120 days in Washington. You know, so it's unbelievable that somebody so young can get so far. His father was a communist. His father fought the British in Kenya, you know, and it's great. I love Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity's an acquaintance of mine. He's a wonderful man. I got to tell you, you know, he sent his brother, I think, a couple of $1,000, Obama's brother, in Kenya, and then he got his brother, you know, because he lives in a corrugated tin roof hut, and he has nothing, and Obama's never helped him, you know, and then you've got Dinesh D'Souza, Obama 2016, whatever his movie was called. He interviewed Obama's brother, and he's like, the Obama's brother was like, we like the British here. If it wasn't for the white guys in Kenya, we wouldn't have running water or electricity, he said. Or, you know, it's not that colonialism is so great, and yeah, people was put into slavery, but the Africans sold their own into slavery as well, and I'm not justifying any of it, but people have to recognize that even under apartheid in South Africa, which was a growing country that had to keep 7 different tribes, the Zolanthus, the Zulus, and Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who's a great man. Mangosuthu Buthelezi is a great man. While the communists were in Angola, and fighting against UNITA forces of Jonas Savimbi and putting 60,000 Cuban mercenaries in there and supporting Salvador Marco in Mozambique, and the Russians were in Madagascar. The Russians were looking for 3 deep water ports, and there was only 3 deep water ports in the whole continent of Africa. People don't know this, but while Nelson Mandela was in prison for terrorism, you know, they blew up buses and stuff in Soweto. He was no angel. Winnie Mandela kidnapped 600 people, put tires around their neck, and hacked their arms off while they were on fire. I have video of this. I have a Dutch CBS film news crew filming the Kinnikini family when South Africa had its first nationwide elections where one man, one vote still wasn't allowed for the prime minister or the president, but it was allowed at all other levels. They ripped this black family out of their house, the Kinnikini family, and they tied them up and put tires around and poured gasoline on them, lit them on fire, and hacked them to death. And I have video of it. So while Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu, Nelson Mandela, you know, oh, peaceful this, peaceful that, while his wife's kidnapping everybody and murdering them, a white guy was head of the African National Congress while he was in prison. His name was Joe Slovo. He just also happened to be the president of the South African Communist Party. So the Russians wanted South Africa, which at the time had diamonds and automobile plants, and more blacks were being educated in college than any country, and their economy supported the sub-Saharan economies of 22 sub-Saharan nations in Africa. People don't know these facts because you're told a bunch of garbage soup on CBS. When I was 16, I was paid to go heckle Bill Cosby in the Grand Hyatt Hotel on 42nd Street while he's receiving the key to 7 cities from 7 northeastern cities' mayors for his work on divestment out of South Africa, and Getty needed to get out of there, and all these U.S. companies were being boycotted, and the Cosby Show was big, and all this crap. Nobody knew these facts. Nobody knew these facts. People are dumb. It's their fault for not being informed. I don't have college. I barely got out of high school, you know. I informed myself, you know. I saw a plane crash when I was 13. I was in the Soviet Union when I was 16. I never did anything that amazing. I had 3 kids at the age of 23, right? I struggled. I'm still struggling. But just get informed, people, you know. Get informed. Once you see the light, there is no going back. By the way, CNN was stumped when Democratic voters were interviewed. It was so amazing, you know. They had this black woman on there and all these other people. It was a diverse group of Democratic voters who crossed the line and voted for Donald Trump. You know, 42 million Americans who are independents and Democrats crossed over in the primaries, in the open primary states, to vote for Donald Trump. It wasn't the Russians. There was no Russian influence. It was those people. It was the, you know, the blue votes that voted for Reagan. And this younger generation, some of them out in the Midwest who have their heads screwed on straight, you know, The CNN reporter asked them how they thought Trump was performing, and the group replied, fantastic, phenomenal, better than I would have ever dreamt. He's doing wonderful. He's staying on point. He's staying on task. The panel didn't agree with the media of the Democrats' portrayal of Trump being a racist. They also said he doesn't get a fair shake from the media. One of the members of the panel, Justice Harrison, the guy's name is Justice. You'd think he'd be like this left-wing guy, said she met Trump, and she didn't think there was any reason for him to believe he was a racist. And when I was out in Cleveland, and I talk about this like almost every show, but I got to get this message out. I was with 1,000 black leaders from around the country and Pastor Darrell Scott, who's head of Trump's National Diversity Coalition. Trump is not a racist. Trump's been helping minorities his whole life. I have a video of Jesse Jackson praising him for his support of the Rainbow Coalition. So there's a lot of fake BS out there. I got to get through these stories. By the way, Al Gore is defending Trump's solar tariff, the 30% solar tariff. I do a lot of solar with my family. We've done over 2.5 million square feet of commercial rooftops with solar. So here's right-wing Dave, right? Right-wing Dave against the environment. I was born on Earth Day, by the way, the first day of Earth Day, 1970. We were just talking about that here. Trump's protecting Americans. He did it with Harley Davidson. Reagan did it with Harley Davidson. I think we had a 45% tariff put on Japanese motorcycle companies trying to build or sell imports here. And it revived Harley Davidson. I'm normally not a fan of tariffs and government interference, but he really cares about this country. Al Gore agrees with them. He must have stock in these U.S. solar companies, But then he goes in front of Davos, and he's in Switzerland or wherever the hell he is right now. And he can't just say Trump did the right thing on this. He's saying, well, it was a mess and a catastrophe, but we had to go along with the deal in the end. But in the end, I agree with it. He's such a scoundrel. He's such a scoundrel. Can't take it anymore. I wonder if he's still on the board of Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera, I was talking to someone the other day. They were bragging about how great Al Jazeera is in Europe. And I was like, oh, you mean Al Jazeera that said that the Israelis make matzah with the blood of Palestinians? That Al Jazeera news that Al Gore brought to the United States? That pro-Sharia Al Jazeera news, which hates the United States? Matt Drudge. Now, Matt Drudge broke the semen-stained dress story from Linda Tripp on the internet when Newsweek, everybody remembers, right? Everybody in the audience remembers that Newsweek buried the story. Mr. Klein, he buried the story. And it was Matt Drudge who had a Tandy 486 computer out of his apartment in Los Angeles, and he lived with his mother in an apartment in Los Angeles. He broke the Lewinsky story, and now he became a media empire giant. He blasted author Michael Wolff for fabricating bull about Trump. Drudge was so upset. Trump had dinner with Matt Drudge a few weeks ago, and he said Trump was optimistic, engaged, and on top of the world, and that he loves his job. And he was already talking about running again in 2020, when Wolff's story in his BS book that he came out with said that Trump doesn't want to be president anymore, where the author claimed Trump does not want to be president. There's nothing to indicate that. This is Michael Wolff said, there's nothing to indicate that Trump is going to find his footing as the president of the United States. Trump will never settle in and have attainable goals. I mean, are you kidding me? The guy never sleeps. He never even drank a cup of coffee in his life. He's never had a glass of alcohol. He's never had a cigarette. I think all he does is work. All he does is work. Trump fires back at these people, and then he's criticized for his tweets. So, listen, I am not Trump's lawyer. I just don't like what I'm seeing. Missing FBI texts, according to Donald Trump. The missing text, one of the biggest stories in a very long time. Biggest story in a very long time. This is going to blow up, Eric. This story is going to blow up. You're going to see a lot of people at the FBI losing their job or getting indicted. This may even end the Russia investigation. I don't want to be repetitive. On some of these text messages, Peter Strzok referenced a secret society within the Department of Justice and that the FBI was working against Trump. The guy's admitting it to his girlfriend. Where are these 50,000 texts that are missing? They got to find them. Jeff Sessions is upset about it. He launched an investigation. He said, well, leave no stone unturned to confirm with certainty why these text messages are not now available to be produced. And we'll use every form of technology available to determine whether the missing messages are recoverable from another source. So, a lot going on. Oh, by the way, so I'm at this event in New York City with Mike Cernovich, 750 conservatives, and I go outside. Not only was I almost assaulted and had to be escorted out to my car against Antifa and BLM protesters, but one of the guys right in front of me knocked out a 56-year-old man, a 30-year-old kid from Brooklyn, knocked out a 56-year-old man. The guy hit his head on a curb, and he was almost murdered. And then the guy jumped on top of him and started strangling him. And he wasn't conscious until he was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Imagine that was a Republican that did that against a Democrat. It would be front page news in every media publication in the world all the way to Singapore. So, hey, Eric, who do we have on the phone?
We have Tammy from California.
Oh, let me get my headset on.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Put your headset on. Tammy, you're live with David Zere.
Oh, my God. You don't want to talk to me.
Go ahead, Tammy.
I'm wonderful. What's up? Well, that's great. Yeah. Yes. Well, you got to remember, the Lewinsky investigation and Whitewater went on for about 4 years, and those were real investigations. And, you know, remember after David Shippers investigated Bill Clinton, it wasn't about the affair. It was about the obstruction of justice, the abuse of power, the perjury and suborning perjury. And David Shippers wanted to bring Clinton up on 14 felony counts. And it was the Republicans like Trent Lott that sold us out and sold America out because a freshman class of senators were coming in and they didn't want them to be clouded with this in the new administration, the new Senate class. So, you know, those were real crimes. But this is fake. This is all fake. And it's disgusting. I think eventually, listen, Trump could say something stupid when he's under oath with Mueller and joke about something, and he'll be indicted. There's no doubt. He should take the fifth. He should take the fifth. He should not only and you know, a good prosecutor never asks the question that he doesn't already know the answer to. So the whole thing is a sham. But yeah. Tammy, we're grateful. Spread the word in California that the only conservatives in New York are coming after them. All right, there's two of us. There's two of us left. Bye, Tammy. Thanks so much for listening. Yeah, so that was a good call. That was a good call. This story in Manhattan, though, with this guy getting punched in the face right outside where I was at this venue, you know, it's not in the national news. It's being panned. And Mike Cernovich, who planned the event, is agreeing with me. And I walked out of this event, and this black woman confronted me and told me I was a pig. She told me that I brought roaches and syphilis from Europe. She told me I didn't even know what soap was until the Moors conquered Europe 1,000 years ago. She was a horrible human being. And no matter what you say to these people, it's a combination of mental illness. But you know what? These are a lot of people. Go online. Go online and go to Alex Jones' InfoWars, who I'm normally not a big fan of. But go watch the 11-minute video of the Women's March the other day, and you are going to cry. You're going to be like, oh, my God, these people are so violent and miserable and uneducated and uninformed. They don't know what they're marching about. They do not know what they're marching about, you know. Let's see. We got so many more stories here. Excuse me. I don't have a cough button. But so Donald Trump, you know, was floundering in the first few months of his presidency a little bit with all this, you know, he was doing really good with the immigration thing, and, you know, the courts all came out against him, and, you know, he was, you know, kind of losing his message. And Newt Gingrich said in a campaign stop in Ohio that Gingrich was going to be part of the Trump administration. Trump said it, and he did let it happen. There was a secret memo that Gingrich came up with, and, you know, concerns about Russian election meddling and White House fumbling led to the failure of getting rid of Obamacare. or instituting sweeping immigration changes or passing tax reform early last year. But supposedly Gingrich helped the president find his way. And it's in a new book by Howard Kurtz called Media Madness, and it's Breaking Out the Gridlock, which is aimed at recharging. The memo was called Breaking Out the Gridlock by Gingrich, and he's responsible for recharging the Trump White House and dodging bad press. He said, we're being sucked into stupid fights and stupid attacks and being distracted from arousing and organizing the American people on big topics that will change history. I don't know if anybody remembers out there. I sat in the gallery in 1994 in the 104th Congress when Newt Gingrich took the gavel. I worked on the Congressman Forbes campaign at that time. And that was the most exciting day of my life, the 104th Congress with their contract with America. They forced Clinton. They shut down the government, actually, and they forced Clinton to go with the biggest tax cut in American history after Clinton passed the largest tax cut in American history in 92. And if anybody remembers, 87 to 95 in this country were really bad times. On Long Island alone, we lost 250,000 jobs. 47% of them were light industrial machining and defense jobs. We won the Cold War. We won World War II with Grumman and Fairchild Republic, the F-86 Saberjet, the A-10 Warthog, the E-2C Hawkeye, the F-14D Super Tomcat, the Lunar Module, the wings for the space shuttle, the EF-111 Raven A, the A-6 Intruder, the EA-6B Prowler, all these planes, P-47 Thunderbolt, which had 850 caliber cannons, and the 8th Air Force used that in Europe, and we decimated the Germans. Long Island was a great place, and it was built by guys like Leroy Grumman, who took a risk and started an aircraft company in a hangar in his backyard in Baldwin, New York, in Nassau County. Long Island was great, but we were in the tank from 87 to 95, and it wasn't until the tax cuts in 96 where this economy took off like a rocket ship. And if anybody remembers, all the way through 2000, 2001, right before 9/11, we were really doing well, and there was a mini recession after 9/11. And then, the Bank Modernization Act and credit default swaps and all these other things, collateralized debt obligations, which both the Republicans and the Democrats are responsible for, happened and put us into the housing crisis again. But we had the stock market crash in 87. We had the housing crisis in 87, 88, 89. We had a lot of problems, So anyway, I still have more stories here. I'm trying to get through them all. CIA Director Mike Pompeo, former congressman, he's coming out and defending Trump. He's saying that Trump asked sophisticated questions during these intelligence briefings, and he's upset with the way he's being treated in the media. Mike Pompeo says, I've seen 25-year intelligence professionals receive briefings. I'll tell you that President Trump is the kind of recipient of our information at the same level that any one of them are. That he asks sophisticated questions during his intelligence briefings daily and often remembers details he learned weeks or months prior. I've seen 25-year intelligence professionals receive briefings. I'll tell you that Trump was breaking ground on immigration, and that in these intelligence briefings we're talking about, immigration relating to ISIS threats in the United States and people coming across our borders. He was engaged with Mike Pompeo, describing a briefing that Pompeo gave Trump, which demonstrated Trump having a deep interest in the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, and that he was listening and he was pushing to know what really took place. And if you remember, the Trump administration months later gave kudos to the Saudis for helping the refugees in Yemen. Anyone thinks he's stupid, they're wrong. Mike Pompeo says that I'm there. I'm there with H.R. McMaster as the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates. He's saying that Mike Pompeo says I have a professional briefer with myself as well. And the vice president is there when he's in town. That's the gang that's at all these meetings. And Trump sits in, and he frequently cites details from past briefings with all these people. And he's using the information, he's taking it on board, and he's not just there as a simple exercise, like Obama, who was waiting to go play around with his Wednesday night dinners with Puff Daddy and whoever else was staying in the White House. I don't think Trump's had one state dinner yet since he's president. I think Obama turned the White House into a concert hall. It's really disgraceful what went on. So Congressman Lee Zeldin, who's a friend and an ally here on Long Island, he's urging the relevant congressional committees to issue subpoenas for all the Peter Strzok records, and he's been leading the charge. We love him. Some other stories. The economy. Disney, 125,000 Disney employees are receiving a $1,000 cash bonus due to the tax reform. But, you know, the tax cuts didn't do anything, you know. The White House says a stable dollar reflects a strong U.S. economy. The Dow's at 26,000, like 250 today. The trucking economy forecasts look good for 2018. Out of Las Vegas, there's a big report about how trucking is going to be at an all-time high in 2018. We're going to put out 10.8 million barrels a day of oil in 2018. You know, we got some other stories quick here, and I don't want to bore everyone to death. There was a Mexican Uber driver in the U.S. illegally who was deported in 2005, who's back in the United States. He raped 4 women as an Uber driver. He used to wait outside of nightclubs for these women to get out of the nightclubs. And they would come out, and he would pick them up, and if they were wasted, he would rape them. He's not supposed to be in this country. So that's 4 lives destroyed by an illegal alien in the United States. Why are we tolerating this again? I'm confused. I already talked about Turkey in the beginning of the show. You know, they invaded Syria, which is a big threat to the United States, and the Russians are backing it. And Erdogan in Turkey is a bad guy. You know, they're supposed to be NATO partners. The NATO alliance is falling apart. Now there's a coalition of Middle Eastern countries lining up against the United States, too. So we have a real serious problem over there. These forces killed ISIS and are trained by U.S. soldiers who have died alongside them on the battlefield. And the Russian-backed Turkish government and the Iranians are cheerleading this, and Bashar Assad is cheerleading this. They're killing American allies on the battlefield, and the Kurds were our friends in the Iraq War. It's very bad. The CIA boss, Mike Pompeo, again, is in the news. He said Trump may consider a preemptive strike on North Korea. The Syrians, another chemical attack. A little baby, just one of the children, who was poisoned by the chlorine gas this morning. This was from the other day, January 22nd, 2 days ago. You know, another chlorine attack. Not good. Not good. So we have to stand up against this stuff. We had a story. I was hoping Ed was able to call in from the road. You know, we spent 16 days in Puerto Rico doing armed security down there during the rebuild in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. And we were talking about the bureaucracy down there and how the infrastructure's in shambles and the government can't get out of their own way. You know, there's 3,000 pieces of critical material that was missing that were recovered in order to rebuild the new power lines, you know, in the country. Power finally began to flow in the area of Academia Bautista de Puerto Nuevo in San Juan. You know, the same region, you know, you had this one of the mayors down there, San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz. She made it a personal mission to waste valuable time and resources by constantly bashing Trump and blocking. You know, we had the USS Comfort down there, which is a hospital ship. There were only 2 patients on board a month after the hurricane. You know, it could handle like hundreds of patients. Actually, I just ran into someone in the mall, and his son was serving on the Comfort. I thanked him for serving. He had a USS Comfort hat. Anytime you see a military member, everybody in this audience, I want you to go up and thank them for serving our country. You know, please. Oh, by the way, we got like 4 more minutes here. A woman in a hijab stars in a hair product advertisement for L'Oreal. But the problem is she's got a hijab on. You can't see her hair. I'm trying to figure this out, you know. So weird. So weird. So the Chelsea bomber who blew up bombs, who set off bombs in Manhattan, one of them which was about 1,000 feet from my daughter's boyfriend, I believe. He was walking home that night in the same street. My daughter lives right over there. You know, we're surrounded by this threat. He has been radicalizing fellow prisoners in prison. And this is what goes on in prison. I spoke about this last week. We're going to have this guy on, hopefully, at some point. He was wonderful. I hosted him at an Alert Long Island event with my family. And he was talking about how radical Islam is pervasive in the U.S. prison system. And, you know, the election's coming up in Iraq, the Pentagon shifting its strategy. Let's see what else we got. Oh, John Kerry. Remember John Kerry? Remember that jerkwad, John Kerry, who lied in order to get his Purple Heart in Vietnam and went to the Pentagon and went over the heads of his regional commander who said, "You're crazy, we're not giving you a Purple Heart for a scratch on your arm, and he went over his head and requested it anyway. The same John Kerry that wanted to serve in Paris and didn't want to go to Vietnam but was sent there anyway, and then only did a month or 2 or 3 months, in country on these patrol boats. And the Swift boat veterans came out against him because they hated his guts because he was a liar. The same John Kerry met secretly in London with Abu Abbas, who's head of the Palestinian Authority. Listen to this, folks. He says, and I said it last week, but I hate when Obama said, okay, folks, come on, folks. It's like so disingenuous. But I don't mean it badly when I say it because I'm a truthful man. John Kerry says that, don't worry, Trump won't be president next year after the Trump administration finally took action and decided to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which no other president did. Everyone spoke about it. And he tells, listen to this, he's undermining Trump's authority by speaking to leaders within the Palestinian Authority and telling them to disregard Trump's recent move. It's like when Clinton went to Kuwait and was talking about how bad it was that we invaded Iraq while thousands of U.S. troops are getting slaughtered on the battlefield. Like, how is that not treason again? It's unbelievable. Kerry asked Aga to convey a message to Abu Abbas, who's a bad guy, and the Palestinian Authority, who launches rockets at innocent people in Israel day and night and have secret tunnels and have 20,000 rockets from Hezbollah in the north of Israel, funded by the Iranians, pointed at them on the other end, these Soviet-style Kadusha rockets. And Israel's under assault night and day. And John Kerry's over there telling Abbas, don't worry, hold on and be strong. Stay strong in spirit and play for time. And play for time. Because don't yield to President Trump's demands, he's saying. Trump will not remain in office for a long time. It was a good chance that he said to Abbas's representative that there's a good chance that Trump wouldn't be in the White House too long. Like, did I wake up on another planet? Like, what's going on here? Imagine a Republican did that. So I can go on and on and on. Big problems in DHS right now. They did an audit of screening practices for ICE, and they found holes in it. Out of the 40 cases filed, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security auditors, found that all 40 cases had at least one instance of noncompliance with the known or suspected terrorist encounter protocol. There's holes in our system, folks. The infrastructure isn't there, and it's the same problem before 9/11, and it's the reason why the FBI didn't get the Zacarias Moussaoui data on his computer, and all these other regions in the FBI weren't communicating about the flight school programs that Mohammed Atta and all these guys were coordinating with. It still exists. The lack of real-time information share capabilities jeopardizes ICE's ability to make decisions on known suspected terrorists. The main problems cited in the audit were failure to run initial background checks, not placing a hard copy of evidence of an alien's ties to terror in his or her case file, no continued screening when an alien is released, no access by ICE field officials to DHS classified networks, weak management controls, limited program oversight. ICE's enforcement and removal operations may be missing opportunities to identify and to take into custody and communicate the status of and make decisions on those aliens who pose the highest risk to national security and public safety. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, Eric, are we out of time yet? Is everyone sleeping in America right now?
We are out of time, Dave.
I think I put everyone to sleep.
No, you didn't put him to sleep. You did a good show tonight. Good show. Very informative.
Oh, boy.
So here's your
time
to say goodbye.
Everybody out there, thank you. You're listening to Everything Matters with Ed Munoz and David Zere. We are on a mission to spread the truth. We are the voice of the common American. We are the voice of the military. We are the voice of the first responders. Go to www.wliny.com. Download our show on iTunes, Podbean, Spreaker. Watch this show on Facebook Live tomorrow. Go to our Everything Matters radio page on Facebook and friend us. Soon we're going to be broadcasting on Twitter as well. We're on YouTube Live. We're everywhere.
We're actually on Twitter tonight.
Oh, we're on Twitter tonight? That's wonderful. I'm very excited. And we're going to be broadcasting live from CPAC in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Absolutely.
We're waiting for our press pass.
Yep.
Eric, thank you.
You're welcome, David.
Have a great night, America. Share this with your friends and family. Bye.